Hello everyone, welcome back to yet another episode of the Puerto Rico XFAVC channel. My name is Emmanuel Santiago and this is the review and real-world testing of the latest update on the C70 camera. Now, for this update, I went outside, I tested indoors with control lighting, I did a bunch of tests for you guys to see the results and judge for yourselves. Me personally, I'm gonna say it blew me away. Amazing results, amazing findings that I have. But first, I would like to thank all of my subscribers. If you are not subscribed, please consider subscribing. I am sending videos weekly, reviewing stuff. If gear comes out or updates like this one, I will be updating on a weekly basis. Now, before we begin the review of the update, I would like to share with you the settings that I used while shooting and testing this firmware update so far. I was using the Canon C70, of course, and I used the XFAVC codec. I used the RAW light, the RAW standard, and the RAW high quality or HQ, which you can use by shooting in Super 16 crop mode. As you can see from this video that I took from my iPhone, I was shooting at f1. That's because the Sigma 24mm f1.4 that I was using, it's coupled to the camera using the RF to EF adapter that Canon makes, and it acts as a speed booster, so it will allow me to shoot at f1. But I have to say that the depth of field will remain the same as if I were using this f1.4 lens at f1.4 in, let's say, an EOS R or EOS R5 and a full frame camera for that matter. Now guys, for my first real world test, I wanted to do this one outside, film some environment scenes with the different codecs so you guys can see in nature with not controlled environment or controlled lighting conditions what the footage may look like, what kind of sharpness you can expect from one another using the same lens, the same settings, the same ISO values, and the same great DJI sensor from the C70 that has blown me away. It has been my favorite camera so far. I've done the R5, I've run tests with an R5C of a friend, and believe me, the C70, it's still my favorite camera. Now, let's roll that clip. Now guys, for the moment that you have been waiting, the moment that we see the real value in the Canon RAW files produced by the C70. In this test, I went indoors, I took one of my Gunpla Gundam action figures and did a really low light situation setup to see how much of the shadow recovery and highlight recovery as well we could get with the C70 and Canon RAW files. In the past, the XFAVC has proven to be a real lifesaver when exposing for the skies or when exposing and not clipping highlights too much. So the way I put my setup was by putting a lamp behind the subject, which in this case is the Gunpla that you're about to see, and exposing for the filaments inside of the light bulb to see how much detail and on those highlights we were able to retain. Since I know the C70 is the master of the shadows, those shadows are almost always very nice to recover, but I really wanted to test if the highlight capability was increased with this update. So let's run that sequence on the studio. So guys, amazing. The ungraded footage, it almost looks identical in each and every clip except for the XFAVC one, because in that clip the shadows were a little bit more dark, and when you see the color graded version, you can see that the colors are not quite as true to reality as with the Canon RAW files. To my surprise, all of the Canon RAW files, they look very similar. The LT, the ST, and the HQ. The HQ, it was my least favorite in my opinion, because you have to shoot in Super 16 in crop mode, and then you have to shoot in 1080p. It's not even 4K. So I really don't see the use for the HQ setting there. Maybe for saving space, because when I compare file sizes, the HQ at Super 16 crop mode at 1080p produces the smaller file sizes compared with the Canon RAW ST and LT at 4K full resolution. But my favorite flavor of Canon RAW was really that ST format, because I found that it does not consume so much data, and the files they played very smoothly on Premiere Pro. At least I was running all of these files at the same time on a Premiere Pro with an Apple MacBook Pro M1 Pro chip laptop. It was a laptop and it ran so smooth. So I'm really excited to keep using that kind of format. If I find myself in a situation where I have to film long format, I will then choose the LT version Canon RAW over the XFAVC, because right here you can see that the capabilities of really digging up those colors from the shadows and giving you natural looking footage even when underexposed, it's so capable that I think this will be my favorite codec when producing paid work moving on to the future. I think that when you put side by side the XFAVC and the Canon RAW ST, you can really see the difference in colors. I don't know if it's supposed to do something with the fact that the Canon RAW files are 12-bit. Still 10-bit color is amazing. I sometimes can't believe that we are getting that kind of bit depth out of this mirrorless small format cameras, but it is truly amazing. So you be the judge. Tell me in the comment section if I am exaggerating, or if you think like me and you can see the difference between these two footage, because it's really noticeable, at least in low light situations. If you find yourself in situations where lighting is poor, or where you have really to get those colors back out of the shadows, man, the Canon RAW Lite and Canon RAW ST footage, it's amazing. For sharpness, I didn't see a jump in sharpness. I think that these footages are pretty much alike in terms of sharpness. In terms of noise, I did found that the kind of raw files produced by this C70, they are quite a little bit more noisier, but the noise is really fine. It has really great grain structure, which is not detracting from what you're trying to convey with your productions. I was really pleased to see that, because the raw files from the R5, they do have a ton of grain. They are very noisy, and that noise is like a hash type of noise where you see lines, and it's really detrimental to the quality of your productions. If you don't have Neat Video or some noise removal plugin on your software, it could be a hassle to edit. And noise removal software, it's really heavy on the editing process, and if you can avoid it, please avoid it. I don't use noise removal. I really use it when I see footage that is very affected by noise, if I don't have another option, but I tend to try to skip that all the way and not use it at all, because it tends to crash the programs. I hadn't had a crash on the M1 Pro chip yet, so yeah, I will test the noise reduction. I will give it a spin to see how it performs on the M1 Pro, but I think that it will still struggle. However, I am really excited. I really want to know your opinions on the comment section down below. Please subscribe to the channel if you find that these reviews are helpful. I will really appreciate if you do that for me, and see you guys in the next video.